Hello everyone, it's Mottzy again. Thought I'd take a little break from doing my other tutorial work and do what I think I'm going to start calling Mottzy Minutes, which is basically a tiny little tutorial on something that I might have helped somebody with or an idea I came up with. So I'm going to jump right into this. This is a tutorial on how you can make player collisions with monsters on the screen. You can see here I have this bat, he's walking back and forth, and if I get in the bat's way, I died. So pretty simple script. It's not optimized, but it is at least the basis of what you could use to do similar types of interactions with the player and objects on the screen. Let's take a quick look at what the script for this object looks like. So there is a lot of code here, and I am going to go through this almost line by line, so bear with me. It's not overly complicated, it's just a lot of stuff. So first of all, to get the object, which in this case is a bat, to walk left and right, I need to have some way to make them move a pace each iteration of this loop. You notice here I have automatically start, synchronize, and repeated. This is necessary because I need the bat to move around without interrupting any other actions that are occurring on the screen. So I have a basic check for a local switch, which currently is set to off, which is what defaults for advanced events. And if it's off, I walk the object to the left, and if it's on, I walk the object to the right. Pretty simple. Then I have to have an iteration variable, which in this case, I just use local variable 0, and I add 1 to it. This block right here is to check whether I need to make the bat move left or move right. So it's pretty simple. I can pick whatever number I want. In this case, I use 5. So the object starts at 0, iterates up to 6, actually, because this is a greater than. And once it gets greater than 6, it'll turn around and walk the other way. So basically all this does is it checks whether it's greater than, it checks what the current switch is set to, and then based on that, it either turns it on or off. Also up here, it resets the variable so it can start the count over. So all this is really doing is it's counting up to 5 or 6, and then it's switching, and then counting up to 5 or 6, and back and forth, and so on. You could technically set this to whatever you want. It could be greater than equal to. It could be actually just equals to. I like to use greater than just in case for some reason the number got incremented too fast. I don't know. It to me feels safer than a direct equals. I don't want the bat to try and go off the screen. Next, there's a lot of work you have to do in setting up variables. So first of all, in order to do this check, I have to make sure I know what my event's current coordinates are, which are the x and y coordinates. So in this case, I set 2 local variables. The first one is the x coordinate, as you can see here. Variable box 1, this event's x coordinate. And then the y coordinate, which is just the same thing but with local variable 2. I use local because if I use some sort of global variable, it's possible this could conflict with something else that I'm trying to set. For the player's coordinate, I do use a global variable, and that's because player coordinate won't really be different every time you check it. And in fact, you could probably move this to a common event. I'm just doing this for the sake of a quick demonstration. Next is where it gets a little more tricky. So you see here, I have an advanced variable op box. So what I have to do in order to do math on 2 different variables is first I have to set a separate variable, in this case local variable 5, to one of the variables I'm trying to compare. So local variable 1 is the x coordinate of the event. So first I start by setting this to that x coordinate. Next, if I want to do addition or subtraction on the other variable, I have to now bring in this player x and do a subtraction. So this is important for the comparison I'm doing. Essentially, in order to compare 2 variables, I have to do math on them and then do a comparison of the number result I get. So now I am subtracting player x from what is the event x. So if these are 0, I know for certain that the object and event have crossed. I do the same thing for the y variable. So in this case, I use local variable 6, and local variable 2 is my y of the event. And then I do the same thing with player y to get the subtraction. So the way the logic of this math works is right now, if the event and the object are in the same physical location, XY coordinate, then it will trigger the "you died" message. So I first check that local variable 5 is equal to 0. I use a direct comparison of equal to and equal 0. And then I check if local variable 6 is also equal to 0. So it requires both of those things to be true. X and Y have to be crossing in order for this message to trigger. Now you could play with this. You could do multiple checks. You could check for -1 and +1. There's many different ways to do it. For this demonstration, it was way easier to just use 0 than to try to detect whether the player was in front of, behind, above, or below. This would blow up the complexity of the check statements. And to be honest, once you have this basic template, you could play with the numbers as you want to find just the right type of collision that you're looking for. At the end of that, that's the end of the event. So it's not a ton of code. It could be enhanced. You could use common events for some of the checks, but this does do effectively the player collision check that you may want for some of your objects that are on the main screen. Another thing you might notice is that if I wanted to have multiple of these objects, I would have to copy and paste it and copy the script along with it. So unfortunately with Smile Game Builder, there isn't a simple way to have reusable code amongst many events that works smoothly when it involves event movement. Now, I'm not going to do that in this tutorial, but if you want to have advanced events that call a common event that do some sort of calculation on variables and player location and so on, you have to do a little bit with weights and a bunch of stuff that I think is good for another Mottzy minute or 10, because it's a little bit more complicated than just call this common event and everything works hunky-dory. But I did add two creatures here, so let's give this a try and then wrap up. So here we are. We have 2 bats. See if it works. Oh, I died. Oh no. And then try again with this guy up here. And I died again. So if you have the right script in place, you could just copy and paste it as many times as you needed to. There are ways to solve this with common events, and maybe in the future I will do that. For now, this is just a quick little vignette of a tutorial to show you how to do basic object collision with the player and events. That's it for now. I'll see you next time.